All right, what's going on, everybody? We are moving on to lesson 4.2, parallel lines and transversals. So in 4.1, we learned about our special angle pairs and not necessarily with parallel lines. Today, we're just expanding upon those special angle pairs and what happens to them when the lines are parallel. Before we get going, just a reminder, here in Canvas, you can always find the notes that go along here, 4.2, the notes with 4.2, and the slides that go along with 4.2. Okay, that is on your homepage. Some of the feedback from before about Canvas is that there's too many places. It's hard to find things. Remember, you just need the home, the announcements, and the assignments. Okay, just 3 tabs. Yes, there's a bunch of tabs, but you just need those 3. Okay, so please use the notes, follow along, or create your own notes. Okay, to review, vertical angles are angles that are on opposite sides of intersecting lines, and they are always congruent. So if we were to think, right, C and E, those are opposite angles. Those are vertical angles, and they are always congruent, meaning they are the same thing. Okay, and linear pair, angles that are both adjacent and supplementary. So remember, adjacent means next to each other. They share an endpoint, they share a ray, and then supplementary means that they add up to 180. So whatever those numbers are, they have to add up to 180. So just throwing out some random numbers, A would be 120. That means B has to be 60 plus 1 because 120 plus 60 gives us 180. Okay, also review, identify the types of angles based off of what we learned in last class. Okay, notice there's 4 lines as opposed to 3, which is basically how we learned the majority of them. Whatever line isn't involved in the angles that you're using, just ignore it. So for example, if we're looking at angle 3 and angle 11, we see that here, these are the lines that are important, right? These are the lines that they're touching 3 and 11. So this other line, I'm just going to ignore. I don't freaking care about it right now. It's just, it's a distraction. Okay, so now we look at 3 and 11. Think, are they inside, outside of the hallway? Well, 11 is inside, 3 is outside, so it's a little bit of both. So now let's take a look. We see that 11 is both below and to the left. We see that 3 is below and to the left. So this is corresponding. I'm not going to write the whole thing, but corresponding. Okay, next is angle 9 and angle 4. Angle 9 is here. Angle 4 is here. Once again, this line we don't care about. It's a distraction. So now we see that angle 9 and angle 4 are both inside. So we know for sure that these are going to be interior. But now we have to think, are they exterior, or sorry, are they alternate or are they consecutive? Well, 4 is below the line. 9 is above the line. That means they're on opposite sides. So this is alternate interior. Okay, next one, angle 1 and angle 8. Let's take a look. Angle 1 is here, angle 8 here. Notice now this is the line that we don't care about, so ignore it. Okay, angle 1, angle 8, both of them are outside of the hallway, right? Both of them are outside of the hallway, so that means we're going to say that these are exterior. Now we have to think angle 1 is to the left, angle 8 is to the right. They are on opposite sides. That means they are alternate exterior. Okay, and the next one, angle 12 and angle 14. Angle 12 is over here, angle 14 is over here. That means we don't care about this line right here, but we see that both of them are inside the hallway and both of them are on the same side of our transversal, right? They're both on the same side and they're inside, so that means that is going to be consecutive interior. Beautiful. So those just review. That's basically what we learned last class. Always good to review. Okay, now when things are parallel lines, when lines are parallel, corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, so only when lines are parallel, corresponding angles are congruent. And notice if you take a look over here, whenever you see arrows like this on a line, right, that means that those lines are parallel to each other. Okay, so corresponding angles are congruent. When lines are parallel, alternate interior angles are congruent. Okay, so these are congruent to each other. Basically, just going through what all the relationships are. So when lines are parallel, alternate exterior angles are also congruent. All right, when lines are parallel, consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So if they're consecutive interior, that means they're supplementary, which means that they're going to add up to 180. And also when lines are parallel, consecutive exterior angles are also going to be supplementary. So basically, when you think about it, whenever you see consecutive, that means they're going to be supplementary. Whenever you see the word alternate or corresponding, that means they're going to be congruent to each other. Okay, so if we take a look, we do an example. The measure of 3 of the numbered angles is 120 degrees. Well, let's think. What angles are going to be 120 degrees? We know for sure that angle 4 is going to be 120 degrees. Why? Because those are vertical angles. Okay, now also we can conclude that angle 8 is 120 degrees. Why? Because angle 8 and 120, those are alternate exterior. And then we can also conclude that angle 5 is going to be 120. So now this one, technically, you can conclude that by multiple different ways. You can technically say that angle 5 and our original angle 120, those were corresponding angles, right? Because they are both above and to the left, above and to the left. But you can also prove that that is 120 degrees because angle 5 and angle 4 are alternate interior angles. And also, finally, since we found out that angle 8 was 120 degrees due to alternate exterior, now angle 5 and angle 8 are also vertical angles. So remember, these are 4 different types of angles that are always going to be congruent to each other. So even if you are given just one angle telling you how many degrees it is, you can figure out many more angles based off of it. Okay, find the measure of angle 1 and measure of angle 2 and explain why. Well, let's take a look. So we know for sure angle 1 here is going to be 150 degrees, right? Because this angle and angle 1 are corresponding angles. They're both above and to the right, above and to the right. Okay, so that is one reason why you can conclude that angle 1 is 150 degrees. You can also now conclude that angle 2 is also going to be 150 degrees by multiple different ways, because these two angles are vertical angles, so that means we know for sure. But also angle 2 and angle 150, those are alternate exterior angles. So if I just write that out real quick, 150 and angle 1, we know that those are corresponding angles. We know that 150 and angle 2 are alternate exterior. But we also know because angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical. And again, I apologize for the terrible writing. All right, but life. Okay, next one. We see that this here, 140 degrees. Well, we know that 140 and angle 1 are what type of angles? They are alternate interior, which means we know for sure that this is 140 degrees. Okay, also we know that what's the relationship between 140 and angle 2? Right, well, those are a linear pair. And linear pair means that they add up to 180. Well, if this is 140, what plus 140 is going to give you 180? And we see that 40 degrees. So angle 2 is going to be 40 degrees. Angle 1 is going to be 140 degrees. And another way that we can conclude that is because angle 1 and angle 2, those are consecutive interior. And remember, in our definitions, we said anything that's consecutive is also going to be supplementary. Okay, so let's do one last one. We see that 122 and angle 1. What is the relationship between those? Those are alternate interior, which means that they are congruent. So therefore, angle 1 is 122 degrees. All right, 122, the original 122 and angle 2, those are consecutive interior, which means that they're supplementary, which means that they add up to 180. Now, this one I can't really just do off the top of my head, so I need to then say 122 plus x equals 180. right? And then if we subtract 122 from both sides, we find out that x is equal to 180 minus 122. I told you I'm not going to do this in my head, but now I'm going to do it in my head. If we get that, that would be 58 degrees. So we know that angle 2 is going to be 58 degrees. Okay, and also, again, we can conclude this because angle 1 and angle 2 are also a linear pair. Okay, those are some examples. Okay, so in summary, when lines are parallel, we know that alternate interior angles are congruent, alternate exterior angles are congruent, corresponding angles are congruent. So remember, those three are congruent to each other. Whenever you see the words alternate, that means they're going to be congruent. Corresponding, always congruent. And then whenever you see the word consecutive angles, so consecutive interior and consecutive exterior, they're always going to be supplementary. So this is a nice, in summary here. So now applying algebra to geometry, creating equations to find values of angles, right? Always follow these steps 1 through 4. Step 1, think, what is the relationship of the angles? Are they congruent or are they supplementary? Oh, sorry, that should not say congruent or supplementary. What is the relationship, meaning like what are they? Are they alternate interior? Are they alternate exterior, corresponding consecutive interior, consecutive exterior, things like that? What do we know about this relationship? Now you can think, are they congruent or are they supplementary? Does that mean that they are equal to each other or do they add up to equal 180? We form an equation and then solve for that variable there. Okay, so again, here's some examples. First, we need to think, what is the relationship? Well, we know that these are alternate interior angles, which means that they are congruent to each other, which means that they are equal to each other. So now we just take this and create an equation. Since they are equal to each other, we just say 128 is equal to 2x. Now we solve for x. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Those cancel. X is equal to, what's 128 divided by 2? It is 64. So that means x is equal to 64. Now here, think, what is your relationship? These are consecutive interior, which means that they are supplementary, which means that they have to add to equal 180. Right? So since these are two separate things that add together to give us 180, we take 150, that's one angle, and we add it to the other angle, which is 3x minus 15, which is equal to 180 because they are supplementary. And now we solve for x. We combine like terms, 150 minus 115, right? Combine like terms first. So 150 minus 150 minus 15 is 135. Plus 3x equals 180. Now if we subtract 135, all right, then we're left with 3x is equal to 180 minus 55 is 25. I'm so sorry, that is not 25. That should be 45. That's why I was confused. I was like, wait a second. 3 doesn't go into 25. It should be 45. Now we divide by 3, and we get x is equal to 15. Those are your answers there. Okay, when we're finding angles with perpendicular lines, remember, also review perpendicular lines meet at 90 degrees. Complementary also means that angles that add up to 90 degrees. All right. I thought I had an example problem that went with this. Apparently not. Here's an opportunity for extra credit. Make sure you're watching this video, so you should be if you're hearing me say this. Watch the video to hear the instructions. Use the lesson slides on Canvas to access the links. So notice on the YouTube video, you can't click on the links right here. You have to go into Canvas and download or click on the 4.2 slides, and then you can actually go in and click on these links. So when you click on these links, they'll take you to Khan Academy, some practice problems. Please complete these practice problems. Once you get to the end, it'll show you a screen saying you got so and or this many correct. Send a screenshot of that, email it to me, and that is how you can get your extra credit. Okay, I will see you in class. Let me know if you have any questions. Go Mustangs.